seen a lot of deviation in terms of ideologies and what people consider to be the winning line. Actually, this is an error. I think Fino's already calling an admin because a Warlock apparently was banned, but I see an even Warlock on screen.
Yeah,
and I think this is a matchup that Fino does not want to play because of Defile and how it just messes up everything Token Druid tries to do.
Yeah, I'm curious what ended up happening here and what the protocol is going to be for this one. So we'll get word as soon as we can. There's clearly an issue with the start game that's happening here, and this is quite rare, but it does happen at times. So there's possibility of miscommunication. There's possibility of just like a misclick that can happen in these games.
Yeah.
Casie and Fino being friends and knowing each other and competitors alongside of this, I'll be curious to see how this issue is resolved. But this typically in tournaments results in a penalty that you don't like to see.
Right. Traditionally.
So ignore that concede for now. We're going to get word from admins on what the ruling is going to be on this.
Yeah, we'll have to consult the admins. Looks like Bloody's on the scene to.
If this situation occurs, I wonder if maybe the counts are backwards or something. I don't really know, because this is now the mirrored match that we're looking for. So maybe it's like the player accounts on stage were flipped around. It's a possibility, because we still have a Warlock versus.
Right. Fino instead is playing Cube Warlock, and then Casey's playing the Druid.
So again, I'll try to get word if we can from administration exactly what the issue was here. But
wait, yeah, you might be right. It could have actually been a false start.
Yeah, like just the counts are backwards. They misinterpreted which computer a player would be playing on.
Right. No, because Mind Control Tech is not in Token Druid. And we saw that in the opening hand of the Druid.
Casey's playing Mally Druid.
You are correct.
And we saw even Warlock on the other side.
Yeah, this is a misread from our end, so apologies. I don't think anyone queued up the wrong deck.
Yeah, so just continue as normal.
Yes.
This matchup, Bob talked about a little bit about it earlier, and kind of to my surprise, he said that Malagos Druid's favored in this matchup, which I thought was a pretty interesting take. I think that if the Malagos Druid is not under pressure early on, and is... Oh, I'm sorry, that was... Even Warlock we were talking about. I have everything backwards. Kind of ignore me, I guess.
Yeah, sorry. Apologies for a little bit of a rough start here to the grand finals, just because we kind of got the little curveball thrown to us with that weird regame.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, everybody, to the grand finals of Hearthstone Championship Tour's Orange County Tour Stop. Fino from Greece, Casie from Germany, Complexity versus F2K, or perhaps something else. And this is going to be quite the explosive start. We see Wild Growth, we see Double Nourish.
Yeah, this is in fact turn 1 from the Druid side of things. Yeah. Everyone knows this is how Druids historically work.
Mountain Giant, Void Lord on turn 5 for Fino. It is going to be a very explosive mid-game here. Yeah. Fino also has ways to add the pressure with Faceless Manipulator. That is one of the best ways to keep on riding this Mountain Giant train.
Yeah.
You tend to be a little bit afraid of the Naturalize, but it's very clear, excuse me, that Casie does not have that.
Yeah, one of the cool tricks I found out when I was practicing Q-Block pretty recently was my opponent stuck a Malagos to the board. I was like, I am just dead. I don't know how to... And I went, oh, wait a second. And I faceless the Malagos and Hellfire for lethal. And I was like, it took me the whole turn. I just wasn't even thinking about that. That's a possibility for it to happen, especially if you end up drawing Cube. With Mountain Giant in play. It's really tough for Casie to answer a Cube Mountain Giant.
Right.
But, to that same degree, you pretty much just get the Cube effect right away if you faceless that. So
That is also why Casie opted for that 6 extra armor. He could have drawn a card, knowing that he would have played Arcane Tyrant. But it is most likely going to come down to, does Casie have enough time to survive this onslaught? Casie does have ways to stall. We look at Faceless Manipulator on the Void Lord as an example. Or perhaps even aggressively on a Mountain Giant. He was thinking about the Lich King. Doesn't have much room to navigate outside of that.
Yeah, I think normally that Faceless Manipulator on Void Lord is a pretty realistic play. The issue with it here is that it's floating so much mana on the back end of it. And so just hunting for something else to do, if that play ends up cropping up. That's really a big issue for Casie right now, is not only fighting through the Mountain Giants, but also just fighting through the amount of mana that's in his hand right now and being able to effectively use it. So Lich King feels pretty desperate right here, but still a bit of life to work with.
Casie also has the greedy version of this deck list that has Face Manipulator and Alex Straza with the Dream Petal Floor, so he's got the entire works.
That's a
And,
possessed lackey.
yeah, Fino is going to keep pressing in. Giant trades the Lich King. Anti-Magic Shell actually works fairly well with the Spreading Plague.
Well, Casie does have some pretty interesting spots here as well. You know, even Faceless Manipulator and Anti-Magic Shell for a Void Lord in this situation can buy a significant amount of health. You know, don't be fooled by the fact that Fino has had these big Mountain Giants early. Casie does have some substantial defense to this. So I'll be curious to see how this pans out. And, you know, perhaps even you're more interested in using the Anti-Magic Shell in a situation where, you know, you've followed up on the attacks. Maybe the Void Walkers want to get Anti-Magic Shelled, so that way you buy more stats across the board.
Yeah, I think Casie perhaps wants to pop the Void Lord, then Spreading Plague Anti-Magic Shell, and all of a sudden, you're playing Token Druid. It's kind of like you play the Stonehill Scavenger and just buffed everything with +2/+2.
Yes, Token Mally Druid.
Oh, man. The hybrid has no boundaries whatsoever with Druid because they were playing Malygos Togwaggle. They were playing, like, you know, mid-range Token Druid with, like, Injured Blade Master with Pressure, you know, and Leroy Jenkins. And now, all of a sudden, we have a fusion of Token Druid and Malygos.
Yeah, I tried to get Ike to build me a Token Malygos Druid, and he just simply refused to. I was very upset.
Yeah. Fino does have a way to chop through pretty efficiently with the Hellfire, but will be picking off some of his own minions in the process.
Well, I'm peeking at Cube Taldaram here, and I'm really surprised that that's not the order of business here. I mean, perhaps that Fino, you know, now that he has Cube and Taldaram, he's looking more at the Doom Guard. I was just about to say the Doom Guards, and I really feel, I guess it's really tough for Casie to just kill the Cube. So that's a really good point. You know, Fino can drop that Taldaram pretty much whenever he wants. Does need to find Gul'dan, so wants to keep drawing cards. Everything looks pretty straightforward here. Oh, he also has Spirit Singer Umbra in hand, so he can Umbra and then Faceless.
Taldaram.
Yeah, I'm sorry, not Faceless. Prince Taldaram the Cube and get 2 Doom Guards immediately.
Correct.
Casie is now in a lot of trouble. I was trying to figure out a situation where this might have been okay, but this is not okay.
Well, he does have a way to pop the Cube with the Spellstone and Malfurion gaining armor, but he puts 2 5/7s on the board.
Yeah, you don't want to do that, typically.
I guess you could clear off some of the board because he has Moonfire as well on the Giant. Piecing it all together, it seems like his best course of action is some kind of Spreading Plague, Anti-Magic Shell, and Moonfire on the 8/1. But
maybe it is with the, you know, I started to take a look at what this looks like. You're going to have 3 taunts in play. You're going to be able to wipe out the Void Lord to a bunch of 1/3s. You can Moonfire the Mountain Giant, take it out. That's totally reasonable. And then your opponent's got 2 5/7s, and you have a big turn coming up. This looks really good.
yeah, I like this too. He kills the Cube, and this was one of the plays we were first talking about. Putting the 2 5/7s isn't nearly as bad when you kill off the 8/1 as well, and it's comparable power when you have the life to play with. And more importantly, if your opponent just kills off these beetles and keeps taking value trades over and over, that Spreading Plague Anti-Magic Shell still gets really strong. So this is a really nice play here from Casie.
Yeah. Now this also puts pressure back on Fino, you know, after he sees a play like this, where Blood Reaver Gul'dan pretty much becomes the most important card in the deck now. So it's balancing mana usage versus life taps that really matter. And here, Fino seems to be really interested in pushing more damage. Hellfire, you take out the 1/2.
I like this too.
Push 10.
Reducing his own board, making Spreading Plague a lot weaker. And I feel like Fino has a pretty good read on the Lich King card. Obliterate would have obviously been used. Death Coil had a lot of applications too.
Has Casie perhaps reached desperate territory? There's still a lot of tools to work with, so, you know, I think I like the ultimate better. But, you know, I'm just looking at a Malygos, and I'm looking at a Floop, and I'm like going, ooh, that seems pretty good.
That was pretty good in terms of the outcomes of the draw. Loses the second Spreading Plague. Does sting. Not the end of the world.
Fino's got a bit of life crank in here, too, and now second Doom Guard for the Skull of Minari next turn.
Another Cube, perhaps?
Cube would have been a pretty ideal draw in that situation, as well as, you know, Blood Reaver Gul'dan at this point. So it's a race against that damage potential that Casie can have there. The more pressure that Fino's able to apply, perhaps the longer he can disrupt Casie from using powerful turns like that. But, you know, at the same time, he needs to be tapping. And the more you tap, the more vulnerable you are to those things. And This hand is starting to look like, maybe not enough was done on those Doomguard turns, as crazy as that seems.
Or perhaps maybe Casie's disruption was what ends up winning him the game. I mean, I think a lot of people in that spot would pop the Void Lord and just go for that crazy Spreading Plague anti-magic shell board. But when you know the opponent has Hellfire and they have Lord Godfrey as options, or even just Defile, that makes the setup a lot weaker because the Void Walkers can pick their trades. So I think this is a very nice setup here from Casie.
Fino drops the Ooze for pressure as well. It's a bit late for Twig to come into effect in this situation.
You're right.
It's a long time for Twig to happen. And Casie, he's had enough waiting. He goes, well, 8 doesn't look like it kills me, so looking like Malagos time. But now's not the time to just plop it. You really want to think through this.
Yeah, I mean, an Acidic Swamp was used too, which makes you already feel like you're safe enough to start playing Twig of the Woe Tree. But perhaps that is a bait. Like, perhaps Fino's like, well, if you do play Twig, then I have an opportunity to be aggressive against you. So now Casey's being defensive right back, and more importantly, investing his Malagos mana now, and then he has Forbidden's Floop to help maybe pick things up later.
And it was that Prince Hellfire that I was talking about. 5, 6, 7, 8. What's 8 plus 8? 16. Fino's 1 damage off lethal.
Oh my. Can he tap for a lethal? He can with, no, he cannot.
You only have 1 mana left.
Yeah.
Wow. This is a scary situation if you're Fino. You're looking at, if you want to fend off the Malagos, perhaps having to blow up all of your own board. And that's not okay. You don't want to do that. He might have to, but you don't want to. Big yikes.
Dark Pact, Possessed Lackey should pull out the last remaining Void Lord of the deck. But you are afraid of your opponent dropping that Malagos number 2 and being able to use Swipe for Omega damage. And now Fino's going to hope for Bloody River Gul'dan. Casie has that opportunity. How much damage can he do right now? Not the game-ending damage we've expect, but still a decent amount of burst with, what, 12?
Yeah, well, now is the time to set up the Twig. Your opponent just had a fairly weak turn. Casie cannot play a minion or it will transform the Malagos, and so he's moving in on damage and trying to capitalize on the fact that Fino's turns, the last 2, have been quite weak. He's going to shut that down with the Void Lord, start cranking damage away again.
Yep. Has the opportunity to even copy that Void Lord. Chooses instead to make Spreading Plague a little bit worse and keep the Prince Tal'Darim as options for Spiriting Umbra in the event where he might need that later.
So now I'm looking at Casey's side, and there is an opportunity for redevelopment here. It takes a bit of time to get going, but naturalize on the Void Lord into a Spreading Plague and big stuff turn is very possible. And so instead, he wants to drop the Malagos and swipe. So now the alternate game plan is in effect for Casie. It's not the damage burst for Malagos. It's leveraging that anti-magic shell instead. If Fino plays Blood Reaver Gul'dan, Casey's going to get a full board of 3/7 untargetable taunts.
And he's seen Godfrey.
Yeah.
He's seen Hellfire, Defile,
Blood Reaver Gul'dan. Oh my god, this game is nuts already. 2 Doom Guards.
No Void Lords, but good enough pressure.
No Void Lords is really scary, though. Fino's hand does not handle this super well. And because it doesn't handle it super well, I think that Fino's in trouble.
Well, the fact that Anti-Magic Shell is 3 attack also means his Void Walkers can trade in, which might set up another Defile of some sort if Fino draws it. Cube and Spirit Singer Umbra. Still not enough.
Cube Spirit Singer Umbra with a Dark Pact, though, is a lot of stuff. There's 7 health. It's
my hunger grows.
kills 3 of these?
He kills 2 with what's on board. If he goes for the cube with the Spear Singer Umbra and the Dark Pact, he summons 20 more attack to distribute, so he can kill off 2 more? Huh. Yeah, you're right. It looks really awkward, to say the least. And he might feel like he needs every single taunt minion on the board. Like, is he going to Dark Pact a Doom Guard to try to stay safe in terms of life total?
I don't know, but he's out of time.
Didn't even play the Mountain Giant. Is that it? How much damage can he get through? Mind Control Tech can also steal anything that's good. Or actually, you can't steal
it just blows
the
it
Doom
up.
Guard. It just kills
it. The Mind Control Tech can't eliminate a minion here. Naturalize can eliminate another minion, and then that's 3 attacks plus the Scarabs can get up to 5 attack each. So right now, Casie is representing about 15 damage, it looks like. If he does it this way, it increases the chance that Doomguard dies if he uses the Mind Control Tech. But honestly, I think he's more interested in using Alexstrasza and defending his life total and just leveraging what he's got on board. This is so much stuff on board.
Yeah, I like Alexstrasza yourself. I think it's clear that with Feno's hero power to the Druid's life total, trying to scare Casie a little bit. I mean, Branching Pass doesn't even have to be used offensively. It could be used defensively.
Yeah, there's just so many good options.
My turn is not.
The fact that Godfrey was used gave Casie the window of opportunity to use the Spreading Plague anti-magic shell in a very comfortable manner. And I think that might be the difference in this game. Casie was super patient with it, didn't even try to really set it up. He kind of threatened to set it up, but not really. Suddenly, Feno's out of cards.
Defile's in hand, but no real good targets. And Casie made sure to keep his health, his minions' health total as high as he could. So Hellfire,
he's done.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if having the Giant on the board would have made a huge difference. I don't see a way out. I think this Token Druid finish is going to lock Feno out of game 1, which is a really cool way for Malygos Druid to win, and ultimately why people who play this deck and have dedicated themselves to mastering it love it, because there's just so many different ways you win. I mean, you just look, the Malygos was played just as a general tempo play.
Yeah, I've gone through in my head almost every iteration I could possibly think of, and there's just not enough mana to create a Defile.
Yeah, not being able to bite minions, not being able to reduce anything down to 1. He can't even get to the 1.
Wow. I mean, he's reaching and trying his best, and my hat's off to Feno for looking for it and staying in this one, but Casie just gonna crush him.
Yeah, Alexstrasza just enough right here. That's gonna be game 1 in the books. Nice job by Casie, and that is exactly what you're looking for if you are the Malygos Druid player. You're looking to kill some of these slower combo/control decks and really punish them, but more importantly, to show the flexibility of this deck. I think that was almost pushed to the max. I mean, Malygos was used to put pressure on. It wasn't actually used for finishing the game.
Yeah.
Over the course of multiple turns, while holding Floop and then locking out his ability to play Mind Control Tech or Alexstrasza or any other minion, because he had to wait for that specific sequence. But he knew that he needed to bait his time, or bide his time rather, until Lord Godfrey was played, so that way he can have his ultimate trump card, which is adapting the anti-magic shell. And Feno knew that, so he was trading his own board in and trying to play less minions, but he couldn't get enough pressure on because he didn't develop enough, and then that caused this little dynamic where power tug of war, and he was off by 5 damage at the end. If he put more pressure, would he have been able to get over the hump, or would he be able to just barely survive in order to stop the pressure coming back from Casie on the backswing when he plays Spreading Plague and Anti-Magic Shell?
And then he ran into himself, and the whole space-time continuum got destroyed and obliterated the entire universe.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I'm kind of going on a facetious rant over here with Admirable, if you will, but this is the kind of thinking that does go through players' minds. And I'm probably just scratching the surface. I'm sure I'm missing like 3 or 4 really important details of why they specifically held certain cards and didn't play others.
What you just did is how I get lost in thought when I'm playing these games and go, I'm just going to go face.
Yeah. In the end, it's like, okay, well, this one's green and it uses all my mana, and like Lich King's like never bad. So, it's like, just play it.
That's also the first game that Feno's lost in this top 16. The first time that blood has been drawn against Feno in the finals. Casie does it on like one of the craziest games that's happened in the top 16 thus far.
Yeah.
Like you have to take a big risk when you use Malygos just for pressure that way. You have to really be comfortable landing an anti-magic shell on a spreading plague and using that to finish the game. It's not easy.
Yeah, but timing. Timing is the key because there's a lot of ways. I mean, when I was like first thinking about it, like this is just the most power on board. But then I was like, well, you're just walk right into Godfrey, which happened to be in Feno's hand.
Yeah.
So Casie is, of course, a very fast player. That's almost something that's synonymous with his reputation. Very consistent. Also, sometimes a little bit too quick on the gun. Just plays cards really quickly. But you can see that he accounts for everything. And also, this man's grinded a ton, so he's putting the reps.
He knows
to really
what to
know.
do. He's got it all figured out. He's done the math already. Feno, Combi Innervate teched into the token Druid here allows the unlock of a Nourish a turn sooner. And this is a matchup where, Feno, it takes him a long time to get to that winning board state. But honestly, Casie doesn't have a ton of ways to check it. My experience versus Token Druid as a Shudderwalk Shaman has largely been my opponent does a bunch of stuff, and I try to kill it all off, and then they do it again, and then I die. So there's plenty of ways for Feno to get a large board, and there's plenty of ways for Casie to clear him, but there's not plenty of ways for him to continue clearing them. And I think that's really the big issue. It puts Casie to a test where oftentimes he wants to find himself going a bit aggressive. Now, granted, Electra changes a lot of that. It gives you a double AoE turn that you didn't have access to before. So that is a big kicker in the situation.
I like that during your explanation of, some of the macro play, 4 turns had passed between these two guys. They were just slinging everything that they had. And to be fair, the early game matchup is fairly dictated by this. Can Druid ramp up, get the resources enough? When you pull out Bioteacher, you need to kill it off immediately. So it's fairly straightforward.
I wanted to paint the whole picture before we got to that point, and they just played too fast.
Yeah, and I mean, it's still going to be relatively straightforward from here for Feno because he just wants to dump his hand, put on pressure, and get to that ultimate infestation turn.
Now, I will say, with your FGC experience, if you just cast this match the way that happens, like the way you were talking at the end, I think it would work.
Yeah, there's a lot of grunting and loud noises, too.
Well, I'm good at those. I'm really good at those.
Ooh, Grumble. So he gets that Electra back, and he can then Electra and Farsa. That is just nasty. And he's discounted both Grumble and Shudderwalk. Ooh. That's pretty fun if you're the Shudderwalk Shaman player.
Doesn't even touch his hand.
It just might as well recruit from the deck. It just slides straight from the top of the deck onto the board and freezes the Bioteacher.
Yeah, this is why they have to constantly change all the animation algorithms, because Casie plays too fast.
Well, he'd be doing just fine to the heavily requested Nosdormu game mode. Everyone was like, oh, can we just turn off animations and play Nosdormu with just the rope? For one thing, that'd make Hearthstone a lot less lively and, a lot more like Windows 95 Solitaire in terms of animation
That's
stuff.
my favorite game where
players
graphics are concerned.
But, for the more...
I love pixel art.
For people who care a little bit less about those animation stuff, I think, Casie would be doing just fine. People are like, I wonder what some of these pros would do. He'd be okay.
Well, they play Hearthstone.
Yeah. Speaking of which, by the way, I want to point out something in that Casie has a Grumble that looks like it's going to be hard to kill unless he dedicates, Power of the Wild and the Hand Spellstone.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. But, Feno has, remember I said earlier, avoiding pitfalls.
Yeah.
Not being in situations where he's vulnerable. He's vulnerable in a situation because he's getting beat up, but he's not leaving himself vulnerable. And I think that's a really big factor into some of the wins that Feno has been able to pick up thus far. He's just avoiding catastrophes.
Yeah, if the Grumble survives, the Shudderwalk would have been able to just seal the game right here, right now, because then you get the Shudderwalk back.
I think this is a world record time of how much time Casie spent on his turn.
He did rope a couple turns in the previous game. And, obviously it's tongue-in-cheek, but that Acolyte draw is really nuts, because now you can double trade and then Volcano with the Acolyte. However, he is aware that Fino's coming up on the ultimate infestation turn. So how do you best prepare for that?
You know, something else I'm thinking about too is like, is Shudderwalk ever usable here? Like, you know, how much time do you have? Again, it's a matchup where Fino's going to keep cranking out boards. It's going to keep being full steam ahead. You know, how long can you keep this charade of Electra Farsights into, you know, helping you get through these situations? And once he sees Ultimate Infestation, you know, that's when Casey's really got to start digging deep and finding the play lines where, you know, he finds himself in those vulnerable situations. How does he avoid the pitfalls that Fino can present to him?
Yeah, and one of those pitfalls is that Volcano is a very important resource to be used in this matchup for the Soul of the Forest plays. It is a way to guarantee clear all the 2/2 tokens that survive after Soul of the Forest because there's 14 health.
Yeah, your AoE is
it's premium.
It's extremely vital in the matchup. You can't just waste it.
Oh, wow, here we go.
Yeah, I was expecting something like this to happen. I mean, his opponent's got, you know, 2-1s in play. He's buffing up with Kelseth again.
Uh-oh.
He's got some more freezes coming. Electra's going to hit, but there's nothing to copy.
Yep, and he also didn't summon the Shudderwalk until after the Grumble. But it is a lot of tempo. I mean, this is a big board. And it's not like Spreading Plague does anything, really.
Exactly. Not being able to fend off with Spreading Plague here is a big deal, but, you know, Fino's got a lot of life to work with.
This is not even my final form. You think this is a lot of life Druid can work with? But in all seriousness, yeah, this is kind of like Fino has a very development-heavy hand. He's got Whispering Woods, Power of the Wild, and then finishing combos with like Savage or maybe the Swipe.
No Soul of the Forest yet either.
Yeah. Spreading Plague summons 1 token.
Casey, I think that his Shudderwalk play this turn does speak to some of the desperation that he's feeling in the matchup. He knows that long-term, AoEs do not get the job done against Token Druid. In addition to that, he knows Fino's running 2 copies of Power of the Wild. It exacerbates that even further. You know, where do you really get to that point where you're winning the game? Sometimes you got to take big risks.
It makes sense, and that's why I agree with you, and I agree with Casey that was probably his best time. Not to mention he could have also just gotten another Shudderwalk copy in his hand, and he still had that Hail Mary attempt of maybe drawing Zola to get another copy of Shudderwalk.
Yeah, I think that was really the final piece of the convincing, and somewhere deep in Casey's head was, I could still rip Zola too. Give it another go.
Looks like Healing Rain is something Casey's thinking about. Perhaps keeping alive his Shudderwalk is his big priority. But again, Lightning Storm, so crucial. Can't just rip it even though it looks good. I mean, by all means, he had a virtually guaranteed clear.
Ooh, that's actually quite an important taunt totem. Because Fino means it doesn't eliminate the Shudderwalk this turn. That's another chance for Casey to draw Zola. Also got all 4 AoEs in hand. You know, that's something big to talk about as well.
Yes.
Casey can get there.
Yeah, the AoE is really important. Part of it is also like trying to make sure you avoid developing into Spreading Plague, which is why you've seen Casey not hero power several times. By summoning totems, you make Spreading Plague better and make Volcano a lot worse. Not to mention sometimes your own totems complicate Volcano math. So, you know, cycles with Wild Growth doesn't find anything that meaningful.
I mean, he needs to find Soul of the Forest too. I mean, that's still yet to show up. Without Soul of the Forest, you basically cannot use Whispering Woods. So Fino's under this weird pressure where his hand is full of cards that are vital to the strategy, but he can't get them out of his hand. Like, he's just using a Spreading Plague. This is the best card for him to use right now.
Right, and also because this is respect, knowing that Casey won't give Fino the opportunity to use a very good defensive Spreading Plague, or rather, a very good offensive Spreading Plague.
Oh boy. Oh, it does have Nourish.
Yeah, it does have Nourish. Does have even like Branching Pass to help clear up the Shudderwalk just to eliminate that Zola possibility.
It's every time that Shudderwalk lives, Fino has to worry about a rip of a Zola.
Yeah, he has to hold his breath. There's ways to do it. You can, if you're going to be buffing, you can even potentially threaten your opponent with like one round of Whispering Woods. But the thing is that Casey's been like very clearly holding on to some cards that he hasn't been playing for a long time.
It feels like 2 Volcanoes, 2 Lightning Storms.
Yeah, and the Healing Rain was even used. So
Yeah.
it's like, huh,
Can
what
be
else could it
Earthshock.
possibly be?
Can be Urshock as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, outside of those, there's really not much else that he's holding on to.
Yeah.
Maybe Hagatha.
I do like the use of Branching Paths. I don't know what he's going to do with the rest of his mana in some capacity, though. I guess he could also Branching Paths after. Man, Casey's like,
He's like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not taking the turn again. I'm killing this Shutterwalk, and I'm going to bide my time. I'm going to find a way out of this.
yeah. So Power of the Wild being ditched.
Just arrows whipping around screen.
I know. That's kind of what Hearthstone could be, if you think about it. Just giant flying cards zipping around the board. We're a couple payloads and explosions away from just being Overwatch at that point.
As soon as you said couple payloads, I just pictured it in my head.
I mean, we have... Oh, hold on. The Soul of the Forest.
Finally, one gets found.
I mean, both players are fairly deep into the deck. Pheno more than Casie because he also played Ultimate Infestation.
Oh, I forgot that they're all double Keleseth buffed. Yeah, that's a much bigger justification for using the Shutterwalk when he did as well, too.
Yeah, I saw this happen with Hunter Ace's game where he invested double Keleseth by Zolaing his Keleseth early on against...
Oh, I forgot about that one, too, the Cenarius! It's just a big thing.
It's a big thing, but it's also a big threat by its battle cry effect, or rather, its choose one effect.
All right, so step 1, make Casie use some AoE. Now, one of the issues here is that Casie would love to use Volcanoes into Lightning Storms, since that's an allocation of mana that works with Overload. It doesn't really work the same here. So the issue is going to be if Pheno can follow up with another Whispering Woods and a Soul of the Forest. What that means is Casey's going to be overloaded to 6 mana. Only access to 1 Volcano, and that does not work when you have a bunch of your own health on board.
But he also saw that Pheno did not have the ability to use Soul of the Forest until just now.
So he knows that this is what's happening.
Never mind, he's out of cards.
Exactly, he
It's
knows
his
this is
last
the
card.
case.
Yep.
So can Casie fend this off? He's going to be at 30 life. Volcano's going to leave some amount of 2/2s on board. He Earthshocked that frog. Should he have waited?
Yeah. I think that Earthshock on the frog might
Sorry,
be kicking himself a little bit. How much damage is being dealt here with Savage Roar Branching Path? Too much.
Well,
Way
12,
too much.
12 damage is going to sit on board. And what that means is that each Savage Roar, because there's 6 units on board, represents 14 damage. And there's 2 of them. So that's 28 just in the Savage Roars. And I'm pretty sure that means a dead Casie. Oh, wait a minute. It doesn't necessarily kill everyone one, but it does. Oh, yeah, it'd kill everyone one here. Wow, Casie, he was so close to getting out of this. But just the overload being forced in back-to-back turns.
Yeah.
His own pressure on... I'm curious if he's supposed to double Volcano on the previous turn anyway, and just accept the fact that some amount of damage would kill him in that situation, but I don't really know. I don't have the math on the previous turn of double Volcano and then roll into double Lightning Storm. Would he have died just to the buffs that Pheno had remaining? That's a question I can't answer without doing some actual math, and that's a lot of math, so I'm not going to do it.
No, you're right. And then also other small details like, he started toteming a lot, and that shut off his ability to Volcano immediately right there and then. And then he was trying to build like a bigger board, try to see if he can get pressure with his 5/5 going, but he also saw that Pheno was drawing closer to the end of his deck. So these are all factors. And then you also point out the Earthshock. Maybe that could have helped keep him alive for maybe a turn, offset so that way Druid can't do 30. And then if he can't do 30, he can use Healing Rain and then bait out another Volcano.
Yeah, long story short, it's really tough, and you can see why it's really tough. Back-to-back Soul of the Forest turns overload Casie, and he doesn't have the mana to utilize everything he'd like.
Game 3. right away. Neither player wants to wait. And I gotta respect that. Fino didn't even necessarily took the entire time of trying to get prepared as we get into the best of 3 now. The first 2 games are out of the way. First to 3 will win. Who can win the first 2 before the opponent?
Cube Warlock versus Shutterwalk Shaman. Big things to look out for. Hexes hitting key demons out of Fino's deck. Urshocks taking out cubes that are used for tempo plays. So given that, Fino's main game plan is to get a big threat online and then to duplicate it as quickly as possible thereafter. I think all intents and purposes, Fino is the one under the clock. Once Shutterwalks start rolling, you're pretty much done after that. So he's got to find a way to deliver that pressure and deliver it significantly before Casey's able to complete the checklist and get Shutterwalk rolling.
Pretty decent opening hand here for Fino to help get those Cobalt Librarians and everything to get drawn with the Skull of Minari and Demons, but needs a little bit better mid-game. Casie gonna go for his card draw.
Yeah, Fino had the opportunity to Acidic Swamp Ooze and maybe prevent this Mana Tide Totem, but as it stands, it's gonna draw at least 2 cards.
Casie has that Gluttonous Ooze for that Skull Minari too, so things are looking nice for the Shaman player. Good sequencing from Fino to make sure that if he draws his Spellstone, he can get that buff.
Yeah, if Fino chooses to attack face here, I don't think the damage is really that relevant, and so the attack here, helps mean that Casie can't just like roll a Taunt Totem and protect the Mana Tide for a turn after that. Early Keleseth gives Casie some fighting power as well. Fino's also not just immune to the damage that Casie can bring either. Life Drinkers start pouring on some pressure. Now that their Keleseth's there, they're 4/4s. Sarnak Chain Gang's going to be 3/4 at this point. Does need to buy back tempo as well, and so this Doomsayer does that perfectly. Just strips away Casey's entire turn.
Yeah, Casie not going to be discouraged enough to just play Life Drinker, invest into the pool. I mean, we've seen the Shutterwalk Shamans against decks that play on the edge with their life total win the game just through like a Shutterwalk battle cry to the Life Drinker twice.
Yeah.
Those are all possibilities. Earthshock to stop Possessed Lackey from pulling 2 minions.
Oh, you don't want to see that one for Fino right now.
Well, I mean, Possessed Lackey can still come down, and then you can use Cube and Dark Pack on whatever comes out. The opponent just used Earthshock as well. It does make it a little bit scary, though, because if Casie Earthshocks or Hexes the other thing that comes out, then all of a sudden you're kind of running low on good options.
Yeah, you're looking at that Dark Pact and you go, I want a Dark Pact to Cube. But you're looking at Dark Pact and be like, I want the Possessed Lackey to make it through. And, if Fino's hand didn't have any cards of value, you'd slam the Doomguard, you'd hit him. But you have 2 cubes and a Dark Pact. Those are pretty critical cards. So this is one of the rare times that I will not say I want to slam the Doomguard and hit him.
Yeah, and then you also have to account for the fact that, you're not exactly at the highest of life totals either. If I'm Casie, I'm going face.
Beating down the door.
I mean, like we kind of mentioned, 2 Life Drinkers in the pool, that's 6 direct damage. Fino will heal up. Ooh, another Dark Pact. And it's like instances like this where you're like, man, if Dark Pact healed 8, that means Fino's basically at full life now.
That card, what happened? 8? 8 is so much. Yeah, Fino wise here to use the health from the Doomguard here first. That means his follow-up Doomguards are a bit more healthy. This point for Fino, though, I mean, doesn't even need to eliminate the Acolyte. And Volcano's a pretty scary card, so, probably, but...
Yep. Trade into this 3/3 is just to protect the health on his Doomguards, force Volcano, if Casie even has it. Is Casie Totem? Probably not.
I think I personally would not Totem. I don't think it's needed right now, but...
Well, that works. I mean, you never know if another Doomguard comes popping out.
Yeah, if you draw Grumble right now, you're not unhappy to have a Taunt Totem in your hand.
I guess also the logic is he's already used the Volcano, and he only has 1 more in the deck. So the chances of him requiring extra, or sorry, as least health amount on board as possible is not that high.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
It does kind of play a little bit face up, because then feels like, oh, you totem, so I guess you don't have the second volcano. Casie trying to press in for that Shutterwalk lethal. And this is something that Casie also tells me about. He says by playing fast, it sometimes sucker your opponent to feeling like they have to play fast too.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it's like a weird psychological thing. It's like, why are you so sure of your play? Oh, I'm sure of my play too.
Yeah. And honestly, the lethal from Shutterwalk is not really, you know, a bad play, I'd say, in the situation. You know, Casie is struggling to find a significant amount of the checklist cards. The 2 life triggers of the pool, the Earthshock that's in hand, get past a Void Lord with that, perhaps. You know, once Gul'dan hits, Feno's going to be applying an immense amount of pressure. With that many Doom Guards dead, that's where Blood Reaver Gul'dan's the scariest. So if Casie has to take the alternate route of hope that Shutterwalk gets him, I think that's totally reasonable here. His hand is in shambles otherwise.
I think so too. The Zilliax, the only downside to it is there's not really much good to play after it, and I don't know if is extremely comfortable leg tapping, but I think it's still okay at the end. He is still safe, relatively safe from like a Hagatha situation too.
Well, you can tell that Feno is actively thinking about the damage potential from Casie, and I think this makes a lot of sense to not tap in this situation. And now knowing that Shutterwalk can't come down next turn, you know, perhaps maybe a little bit more willing to take a risk somewhere along the line. But you know, down to 9, you do not expect to be losing the board to Shutterwalk with Cube Warlock.
Although the overload means that Shutterwalk can't come down unless Farsight hit the minion, and no Farsight has been played. So
Exactly.
I think this is okay for Feno to take a step back. Defile ends up being a nice little save here
Doesn't want to play the Lackey before Defile.
because he wants Dark Pact.
Ah, that's why. Okay. Oh. There's no chain gangs in the pool, though. Well, this is kind of a weird turn. I'm going to put an Ooze in the hand, just wants stuff on board.
Yep, and if Casie is able to get his Earthshock and Shutterwalk, that's still only 12 damage.
Yeah, I'm curious if in Feno's spot, like, how fast does he really need to go here? You know, knows that Shutterwalk is likely a card in Casey's hand, I think, given some of these setups right now. You don't want to leave damage on board in fear of Earthshock.
He is taking everything as seriously as possible. I thought there was nothing wrong with the second Void Lord.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at, too.
I mean, the Godfrey to clear, technically this is a little bit more power on board, but you do kill off a lot of the health from your Void Lord, too. Casie has he has the ability to pass and stall if he really feels like there's nothing really good to do here. The Gluttonous Ooze is still effective if your opponent draws Skull, but he's already played 2 minions from his deck with Possessed Lackey, excuse me. Doomguard and Void Lord remaining.
Uh-oh. I mean, Shutterwatch doesn't duplicate anything right now. Like, I don't think you can play
it. just freezes and Kelseth buffs and does a bunch of other janky things like Gluttonous Ooze.
Yeah, so
it's just not meaningful.
Yeah, Casie is now, when he Earthshocks this, I think he's abandoning the aggressive plan, and I think rightfully so. It's just not going to get there this game.
Yeah.
But now it's like he is desperate to draw Serenite Chain Gangs, or this game's going to slip out of control. And Feno says, "Yeah, the bad cards are gone from the good cards are gone from my hand. Start hitting."
Our cube. Actually, is that Earthshock means that there's no more silence effects in the deck? Feno going for Ultimate Greed has the ability to face his own cube. That was played on the Doom Guards.
Well, now Casie doesn't have an option.
Yeah. Why even play the Healing Tome at this point? Isn't it just another minion for Hagatha?
Yeah, at this point you would save it for Hagatha, but this is an extreme long shot. I think that Casie comes out on top of this one.
And Feno hold on. He has 2 cubes in, or sorry, 2 Doom Guards there. Nah, there's nothing he can do about that. It's interesting that he doesn't want to face his own cube and then pop the cube.
Yeah, I'm really. I mean, you know, Void Lord. Taking care of this Shutterwalk is something you want to do in some way or another. I think the best way to do that is to run in the cube, run in one of the Doom Guards, and copy the cube with the Faceless in the meantime. Spellstone can be used alongside this. I just don't see how this is ever really an issue. This looks great to me. Just checking everything and seeing the Void Lord's there. Casie concedes game number 3, and it's now a 2-1 count in Feno's favor. Casie just couldn't find Saronite Chain Gangs, and as a result, had no chance with Shutterwalk.
Yeah, and it routes to your actual account.
You're right, Dan. Twitter.com/that'sadmiral.
Awesome.
You can also head over to Frodan's. It's twitter.com/shutupfrodan.
I should have my own like parody account or whatever, novelty account.
I'm not going to call you out.
Yeah, but
Feno, Casie, game
yeah,
4.
we're going to game number 4 here.
It's a match point
we're
for
done
Feno.
stalling. This is tournament point. If Feno wins this, he is the victor. No double elimination, no extended series, none of that shenanigans. It is Death Rattle Hunter, which is coined to be best game in the deck right now by a lot of data scientists and Reddit moderators.
Yeah, best game in the deck right now, along with a lot of scientist datas. You said game in the deck.
Game in the deck.
Yeah, it's just backwards.
Wow, that is a hand. The 2 cubes in the play dead, but this Earthshock complicates that a lot.
Yeah, and Casey's just going to full wipe it out. You know, one of the things that can happen in this one is Feno, he's not actually totally unhappy to cube eggs in this matchup. Normally, I'm really not in favor of that, but all the damage in Casey's deck that's AoE based is just that. It's going to wipe out eggs and make big boards. So he has to pay close attention to those sorts of things. Here,
Oh my gosh.
Feno gets to untap with a Houndmaster Shaw in play, and when you get full access to all of your mana, and you have Cube, and you have Playdead, and you have Houndmaster Shaw, I've done this a time or two, and I usually come out in a very favorable situation.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's going to do that same thing here as well. This is
Yeah.
about as tough as it gets.
It is gross. Casie nodding his head like, okay, yeah, this is what I get for having that Houndmaster Shaw survive. I mean, he had an opportunity to potentially remove by using Lightning Storm with spell damage.
Yeah.
But is that really that reliable?
I think it's not that it's not reliable. I think it's just that it costs too much. You know, I've talked about avoiding pitfalls. I don't think this was a pitfall that Casie had the liberty to respect in this regard, as Feno is just now exploding onto the board. If Casie had gone for that, he would be left with fewer resources and less development, and Feno would still have opportunities to play dead later on. If he had Q play dead right there, so be it. Feno, you got me. That's my stance on it, and I think Casie made the right call by not killing the Shaw with how much it would have cost him.
Yeah, well, so that's the 6 Shaws.
Well, it looks bad when it happens. I'm just, you know, look at what what it cost. Just would have nothing left. You have 2 healing rains and a life drinker versus Cubes and Katharina.
Is there any way out? Second Lightning Storm, perhaps? Mind Control Tech. Mind Control Tech plus
Farsight and the Mind Control tech.
That still doesn't do much. Okay.
Well, it would give him 2 Shaws, which both have Rush, and 2 Mind Control techs, which both have Rush.
Right. But now you can also Storm. Actually, Life Drinker is also just as good, too, because Storm is not very reliable in this position. And hopefully this is enough to weaken the pressure. It's just really not, though, because Feno can keep this going with more. Flanking Strike for a trade. This is probably one of the least effective mind control techs I've ever seen, despite stealing literally the best target.
There's just 6 Shaws on board. That's what's so funny to me.
Yeah, I can't get, boned by mind control tech if you just literally steal all the same minion. But this is disastrous for Casie.
Oh my.
Okay.
That is Mind Control tech in it.
Well, I mean, he's at 18, 9 on the board. Still a turn out, but Katharina, can it pull the Charged Devil Sword? How much damage is that?
I don't think Fino's playing Charged Devil Sword, actually.
Oh, you could be right.
I think he's playing... Yeah, he's on Savannah Jaime.
Okay. Casey's like, oh man, is it the Crush? And it's the Lion.
Oh boy. Now, my head tells me there is still a way for Casie to win this game. I just don't know what it is.
So if Lightning Storm hits... Oh, hold on.
That's probably it.
Oh wait, yeah, he steals Helmut Shaw. He gets the rush on all of his Shutter Walks.
But he didn't steal Shaw, but he wipes out the Shaws. That's even better. Because now they're just
You're
dead.
right, because then he would have not had that. He stole Katharina away.
And then you zap, because you don't let him cube that. Casey's ahead, I think.
What? How'd that happen?
Shutterwalk. 1, 2, 3, 4, 13. Oh my gosh, he's so close to killing him. I can't take this.
Well, I don't think Fino's gonna let him just bulldoze with this board. I think if anything, he's probably just gonna remove most of it. He can double trade into the 7/4, King Crush down the other Shutterwalk, and then try to ride value. But then here's the thing: if you want to talk about value, Hagatha is one of the better cards in this matchup, excuse me, for the Shutterwalk Shaman to ride that value train, because then you can just keep biding your time. But if Fino gets Deathstalker Rexar, that's a different issue as well.
I'm looking at Defender of Argus, too.
I think he wants to eliminate any possibility Shutterwalk gets bounced back into the hand, but you were right, Admirable. Casey felt ahead for a brief second.
I just forgot that Hagatha Battlecry happens again. I'm so used to minions being the battle cries, and when it happens, oh boy, that's just a big minion.
Sort of. I mean, is there any beasts in Casey's deck?
Not anymore. Life Drinkers are gone.
Your shock here is actually fairly big too, because Casey gets to push damage, setting up a potential lethal. Double Witcher Grizzlies. Pretty well statted.
Yeah, but I'm looking at Forked Lightning and Lightning Storm.
Forked Light Hex.
Yeah, this is, I think Casey, I think he gets by this, honestly. Like, I mean, it looked like Fino was just going to run away with it. Hagatha completely changed the scope of the game. The extra 5 armor, vital in the situation. Having Shutterwalk and just, having it blow up a bunch of stuff, super vital.
Hold on, I mean, we were calling it early the previous few turns, and I mean, yes, this still looks really good for Casey, but it's not decided just yet.
Well, it's just gotten that point where I look at Fino's hand and I'm like, there's just nothing left. He's got to have something big.
Well, that's not very helpful. Casey didn't develop.
And the big stuff's dead.
But I mean, Fino can get Deathstalker Rexar and start bringing it back in his own value.
It's a true story. 4 more damage here for Casey, and now Fino. It's got to be now.
Tracking. Tracking can get Flanking Strike number 2. Flanking Strike plus Defender of Argus. Ziliax.
Oh.
Ziliax is a really big pickup.
Well, now you're looking at that Keleseth and you're going, gosh darn it.
I think it's okay, given that Defender of Argus still puts comparable stats. Actually, it's a little bit better on the board, but you're right. I mean, there's not many good minions left in deck anyways. He's recruited some of them.
Yeah, now what's better for Casey? Is it hunt down Hagatha cards and draw extra, or is it put a big thing in play with Katharina?
If you play Katharina, you're almost accepting that your opponent's you're not going to have to rush your opponent down, and then they have initiative. They get to respond to your Katharina if they have Spider Bomb, for example.
You can also tell that Casey's, he's looking at Volcano here and going, I do have some tap opportunities, denies 4 life from my opponent.
Yeah.
When am I going to Volcano again here?
Also, the double Keleseth buff. Totemic Might. Where's your Mossy Horror, Fino?
That is the Mossy Horror. It just blew up everything and then made it 2/7.
Oh, boy.
It's like Dan knows that it's going to happen. Dan's face, he's like waiting for it. He's like, I know it's going to happen. And I just read his face. It's queued up. How? This is nuts.
So a few things Fino has to consider here is, one, if this game keeps going even with resources, it could end up becoming a war of attrition. So things like Elig are pretty good. But I think he also just wants big, fat minions. And to top it all off, still has Carnivorous Cube. But Casey's going to keep drawing cards. Lava Burst. It's a big pickup.
That's pretty much the only one that Casie wants to see for the rest of the game. It's just Lava Bursts. Those will get it done.
Hunter's Mark. I mean, the Nesting Rock already has Taunt because it just combined with the, what? The Silverback Picture Hex!
Oh my gosh! I mean, there's barely any cards left, so it's really not going to be that, but it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's not even
Lightning Storm for 2 damage!
Well, it's also a beast on the board.
To push 2!
Electro and Lava Burst!
Oh my gosh!
That was what we theory crafted when we first saw this card. We thought Aggro Shaman could utilize Lava Burst twice.
Turns out that was a really terrible deck, but when you get Lava Burst from Hagatha and a Shutterwalk Shaman, it really does a lot of work.
Echo and Rush. Did he pick the cheap minion? Did he pick the Timberwolf? Because that is nasty if he could do that. This works too. This ends up working beautifully. Wow! The Direwolf Alpha buffs.
Oh boy.
Oh, and the Grumble bounces back.
Oh boy. That
First, see what you draw. Could be Lightning Bolt.
That is big. 9-9. You're both frozen.
Spider Bomb can save Fino here in this spot. It has to be Spider Bomb. Candle
Time
shot.
to build a beast. Oh, wait, he can do that and get to the 5,
Oh, they
3
have
rushes.
Echo and Rush.
And then the candle shot wipes out the 2-1. He's alive again!
No, the candle shot, he's frozen.
Oh, he's frozen! Ah! Casey's 1 damage off lethal?
No, he has Earthen Might and Wind Fury.
Oh, he has Earthen Might!
Yeah.
I can't look at the game. I'm just losing it.
Oh, Fino Hero Power's at the very end. And that... Oh, man. Oh, man. What a game. What a game. What a series.
Lightning can strike twice.
He can double buff with Earthen Might or double dip with Lava Burst,
That
no
is
matter how you
unbelievable.
cook it. It is dead.
Exact mana for lethal, too. Game 5 coming up. Casie finding a win with Shutterwalk. It looked like that was going to be the weakness here. And perhaps it still was, given its 2 losses. But it doesn't matter now. There's only 1 game left.
And it is a mirror. The Death Rattle Hunter mirror to finish it all, which I think is quite appropriate given that it is the most represented deck and archetype at this specific tournament. Druid, I think, was brought more, but it was a little bit more diverse in terms of what people choose to bring, whether it's Malygos Druid or Token Druid or other variants. I'm exhausted, by the way.
Man, my heart is just pounding right now. Both over how crazy that game was and how stupid I sound anytime I said anything in the last 5 turns of that match. Aside from the aggro shaman point, that was a great point.
Well, it's just funny, right? Because I think one thing that we've come to realize is that our...
the set came out.
Oh, yeah. We were on the call together.
Doomhammers in the deck.
It's not bad.
They just kept getting oozed. They were everywhere.
Yeah.
You went like 10-0 with Quest Hunter.
That's right, I did. I played Odd Quest Hunter.
I was mad.
All
But
right.
true to the Bob form of this weekend, he said if Keliseth is in a deck, it is in the game that's being broadcast as well. Now, I also have been following it up with Keliseth is impactful, but in Hunter, it's not the most impactful. Really, this deck was built, and then you kind of look down, it didn't have any 2-cost cards. You had 1 card slot left, and went, oh, sweet, Keliseth.
Hold on, I totally identify with what you're saying. I've seen Keliseth a lot, but this is a very crucial turn here for Fino. He takes a second to think, do I even pop this egg preemptively? Do I even develop? to try and get ahead of my opponent. And he chooses to play reactively.
Okay.
And he has Houndmaster Shaw and Spider Bomb. So I think that's the right case. Remember, if he had drew Spider Bomb at any point, he would have also relieved the pressure.
I hard disagree with what Fino just did there. I do not pop eggs. I don't like doing it. All it does is pop. It just death rattles for your opponent. Like, the big plays in this turn that really matter is if you can't seize the early board and take advantage of it, it's being able to cube something later on.
I don't know. I think Fino ends up coming out ahead in this exchange, especially because he lands Houndmaster Shaw, and it doesn't look like it's going to get answered. And also, you factor in that he has Heg and Stalker next turn. He has Ziliax available this turn, too. It's still really good. Oh, man, it's close. I think Ziliax, because it has a little bit better pressure, and because if you have the ability to answer whatever 5-mana threat from your opponent, it'd be really good. Hunter's Mark, Houndmaster Shaw. Even King Crush has its 5 abilities, but...
Well, I'm looking at Shaw here. I mean, if I'm going to tracking and not have anything to do with 4 mana, I'm playing a 4-mana card.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, Fino actually right now... Oh, I think Casie just spotted what I just spotted too. Is that Spider Bomb
Yeah,
really
Spider Bomb.
hurts.
Yeah, Spider Bomb plus
that's-
any activation is...
Well, just Spider Bomb, you magnetic it to the Ziliax.
Oh.
You just run it over.
Oh, that's... Yeah, okay.
You can also Spider Bomb and then use
That's
the Terror
what it
skill.
is.
So, I mean, you have so many different ways to do it.
No, you're right. I thought he wanted to get Ziliax because it's like slightly better attack, a little bit more pressure, a little bit better trades on the board.
It's the magnetic. I mean, you could magnetic and run it over, or you could place it and then use a Death Rattle effect. You could also magnetic it and then use a Death Rattle effect. I mean, but all of those things are possible. But I want the egg on board if I'm Fino here.
Yeah.
So popping the egg pays off because he has strong follow-up to it.
Yeah.
But
Death Sucker Rexar.
I just disagree with it. You
I
pop
don't
the egg
know,
for him.
Because Fino still has good pressure with this Carnivorous Cube and Terror Scale Stalker opportunity.
You know, perhaps the timing of when you kill the 5/5 is the vital part of that. I've just never had good experiences with it.
And I think because Casie has shown he doesn't have good removal tools, like he didn't have Flanking Strike, he didn't have like a Hunter's Mark, he feels okay just extending onto the board like this.
Well, the Shaw is really, you know, one of the big points of trouble here, where Casie is not answering the Shaw, and that's where it can lead to some pretty dire situations. So I am fearing for Casie here that he may just be so far behind that even though he's got an engine going and he has massive tools, that Fino might just be able to just keep pushing relentlessly in this spot.
Yeah.
And ultimately come out ahead.
Yeah, the Charge Devil Soul and stuff is great next turn, but this cube with Houndmaster Shaw available is really devastating.
Well, now it's also, you know, Fino could Hunter's Mark his own cube in this situation.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think he's going to do that, but the point I want to deliver is that he's got a lot of options.
I
to get
actually
this
do
done.
like that, because I think it accelerates the pace of the game really fast.
So it's just cube in general.
Okay.
I mean, that's good enough. That's bad news for Casie.
And attack, too, makes sense because he drew the second candle shot. Casey's under severe pressure.
You know, Build-A-Beast can do some pretty crazy stuff. But when you have strong tools to use, you generally do those. And now with Witchwood Grizzly found, if Casie can ever get to a safe turn with that, that's one of the big deals. Flanking Strike to murder this, and then push 10 more on top.
Yeah, that's a 2-turn lethal setup right here. And Casie will feel like Witchwood Grizzly's his best chance to survive. And that leads to a Hunter's Mark. I think Fino has found the line. And can Casie stay alive? Oh, the Bear Shark has taunt. Okay.
4, 6. Yeah, I mean, he does stay alive through that. And
This kid is
Cave
so
Hydra.
fast.
Cave Hydra was the take there.
Okay.
I know that Casie is looking for Cave Hydra lifesteal, and he doesn't quite find. I could just tell by the way that went. I'm like, he's looking for it. He just needs to find a turn where he substantiates defense, and I don't think he's getting it. You know, he plays the 7/9. There's gonna be too much pressure on Fino's side. If he plays Witchwood Grizzly, Hunter's Mark's going to wipe that out. There's no defense left.
Truth is found in death.
And that only means one thing. Deep breath from Fino. It's been a year-long pursuit. And finally, after numerous top 16s, Fino's going to find himself winning a tour stop, taking out Casie 3-2. And look at Fino's face after that win.
Yeah, it's an emotional moment for Fino. Usually you see a lot of celebration and victory, or victory pumps, but you can see the relief over Fino's face here as he is able to take the HCT Orange County Championship home. And I gotta say, man, this was a long time coming, and this has kind of been a long path because Fino's been grinding for a long time. And you can see a lot of the players are just ready to kind of celebrate and congratulate him. But I think everyone's also, no one's like really disappointed. Everyone's really happy for the guy because of how much work he's put into the scene.
Well, look at Casie walks over with a big smile on his face, ready to give him a hug. Like, good job. This was coming for sure. And just friends coming up to congratulate him. See, saying up there, these players have been battling all year long at tour stops all over the world to be achieving these victories and these milestones in their Hearthstone careers. And it's just another great one to see is that guy in the front dabs, and I really disagree with that as well. Don't do that. But, for Fino, this is one of those moments that you work the whole year for. This is what it's all about. You could take a bunch of washouts and events. It's the titles that are the most satisfying ones. All the rest of the year, you could be proud of that one, but that title, no one is able to take that away from you.
Yeah, and, for Fino especially, it's satisfying. Again, for context for people who are winner for HCT Orange County, it's been a long time coming. I think a lot of people say well played and well deserved. So, Fino, you kind of told me you weren't sure, what to say.
Yeah, I mean, what is there to say? I've been trying for this so long. All I ever wanted was just to win something, This is like a thing that you just have to do. And finally I get it, and now I don't know. What's next, This was my goal, and I achieved it, so I'm really happy for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for one thing, you should celebrate.
Yes. I will do that.
Okay,
my purpose coming here wasn't to win the tournament. I just wanted to hang out with the boys, go to BlizzCon after.
Right.
It was basically vacation for me. Mm-hmm. This is like a really good bonus that just happened.
Yeah, I saw that you were thinking about going to the beach today.
Oh,
Turns
yeah.
out that you're probably not going to be able to make it while sun is still out, but you can still have, a nice little fire on the beach.
I have a week. It's gonna be good. I'm gonna go there.
Sure. I mean, you said that you weren't expecting to do well. What do you think was the reason why you were doing so well? Do you think maybe relaxing or having a more chill mindset going into it helped?
I think this is the most important thing about competing. I feel people have too many expectations from themselves, especially Hearthstone pro players. They just think, I just have to do well, just have to do well. That's what I did to myself last year, and I just didn't do well. When you lower your expectations and you just relax and play well, then it's when you'll get it eventually.
Gotcha. And was anybody kind of helping you with that, or is that something you came to a conclusion yourself?
No, of course. I talk with so many people that I honestly don't know if I can mention all of them, but Boar especially, Boar Control, he really helped me with the lineup. I think we were the only two people that played that lineup, and I think it was just really good decks. I feel very comfortable with them, so that was a good thing. And yeah, we got there.
Was it extra sweet rampaging through the top 16 through Tempo Storm? 3-0 Amnesiac, 3-0 Muzzy, 3-0 Swith to wrap it up.
Today was a great day. I think I 3-0'd everyone except Casie.
Yeah.
And the games were just it was as someone handed me the win. Mm-hmm. I looked at my hands and I'm like, okay, there's no way I can lose this game. Mm-hmm. And I was so scared on the last series because, last time when I was in Montreal against Saiyan, it was a really close finals.
Yeah.
And I was 100% sure that I won, and then I lost, And now when he played Shatter, when I was I don't know if you were casting, right? Yeah. And he played Shatter, I thought I won, and then he stole the Katrina.
We thought you won too.
And I'm like, oh, not again. Please don't do this to me again.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got there, so that's all that matters.
That's awesome. I just wanted to, I guess, ask you, is there anything that you wanted to say in particular? Because a lot of people get to this stage and, they're like working so long, but I think you've also put yourself out in the eyes of the community. You're doing like watchstones, doing a lot of show matches. So you're constantly talking to the community, your thoughts.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to say right now that you have the floor?
I don't know. I just think that these things that I'm doing, like the show matches or the watchstones, I think these are the most important, at least the most fun to me when it comes to Hearthstone, because it brings people together. We're just all gonna hang out, watch other people play. We're all gonna hang out, try to figure out like how certain matchups go, for example. And I feel this is really important. This is the best thing about the Hearthstone community, that people like make relationships out of Hearthstone, and that's the greatest. That's like that doesn't compare to any victory for me. Like the relationships I've met this year were just, I don't even know what to say. Yeah, it was just great.
They're bonds for life. I mean,
Yes.
it's something that you can't ever forget. I mean, they're always there for you with ice cream.
I would swap any win for the friendships I got this year. It was just great.
That's a really hard one. I can't really top that with another question. So, anything else you want to say in final words, shout-outs, thank yous?
Shout out to Seiyan, Mazi, all the people that supported me, Oskaka, who's here. We're staying together, Crane, Tyler, yeah, all these people, Casie, that were just there for me every time. And yeah, I finally made it.
All right. Well, it is my pleasure and honor to hand you this first place trophy for Esports Arena's HCT Orange County. Congratulations, Fino.
This is great because you get to use this.
It's true. It's
This
a
is a
practical
great
trophy.
trophy.
That's right. That's right. We're very practically minded here. And I also realized I was literally the only one in the studio clapping, so a little bit awkward. But congratulations, a little handshake from me. GG, well played. Thank you so much for tuning in to this tour stop. If you guys missed any of the action, make sure to check some of the VODs here at twitch.tv/playhearthstone. But until then, hope you guys tune in for BlizzCon for the Hearthstone Global Game Finals. I'll be hosting along with the other UK casters for the final 8 countries who will be battling out for the chance to call themselves the #1.
Right about now.